we've expanded the tree and shrub nursery this year, so I thought I'd do a video of what we got going on at the minute. I'm about to put another expansion in really, but yeah, I can't keep putting videos off because there's loads going on. So this is walking onion. You can see that's just coming out. We've actually got sprouts on the little bulbils already, and there's quite a few in here, so we'll get a load more from them this year. I abused them badly and gave loads of them away and so on, and realised I was down to maybe 10 or 15 of them in total, so I've put them all together here just to bring them on more aggressively. Then we've got, this is an orange willow. Now we had a load of this, other than the hogweed, there's a load of this that we had out. It's been out competed by the grass and it's died, so I'm glad I took these cuttings before we did, because I've got plans for this. We're going to do a nice arch from it, but unfortunately the original plantings have died off, but these are the cuttings that are going to repopulate a different project. Now behind them, in these two, these are hazels. These I grew two, this is their third year, so yeah, really good, really dense planting. They've had minimal weed pressure. I've given them plenty of fertilizer this year because this is their last year being grown out in the crates. So next winter they'll go out and they'll be potted on, planted out individually inside the shelter belt. And then with the same thing here with the chestnuts, pretty much the same thing. I just bought a bag of nuts as close as I could. I think these were from the north of England. The hazels were from Wales, so again a fairly similar climate. It's not typical of Scotland where we are. We're in a really weird microclimate. It's actually pretty mild, so they should do well. And what we'll do is we'll take the nuts from the first ones to bear and we'll sprout them, at which point we've got far north of Scotland hardy early bearing cultivars ready to go, you know, so we'll plant them into, you know, subsequent plantings. So really this is just a bulk selection process for things that are suitable, but also that increase the shelter belt. So it's a win-win really. We've got a few Antonovka apples still due to go out. They're amazing. They're an apple that grows straight true from seed. It'll grow, you know, if you plant an Antonovka seed, you'll get an Antonovka apple. So they're very, very cool, and also they're good as rootstocks. So we've grown a load of them, and most of them have been planted out. Honey locust. This is the last time I'm trying these. I've planted them 3-4 times. Every single time I've lost all of them. So this is the last attempt. So we'll see what they do. So far they seem healthy little things, you know, I'm really pleased with them. But we'll see. This here is nothing as yet. This is, other than the odd weed, so I have to keep on top of that this year. This is wax myrtle. So yeah, they stratified over the winter and then we put them in. So we'll see what they do, but nothing as yet. But it's still quite early in the year, it's not particularly warm yet. In this one here, we've got a few hazel here. These are ones that I bought as seed from improved varieties, so they're like you know, stud genetics if you like. So they'll be dotted out as well this winter. And then these were just an experiment. Those are just seedling trees grown from seeds that we've had from supermarket apples. So just to see how aggressively they grow, and the answer is very. So we've got hundreds and hundreds of them ready to go again. This here, this is what happens when I don't use fresh compost. It had a lot of weeds. I tilled it, I put a whole new bag of compost on top, and yeah, the weeds just come straight through. But underneath all of that here, you can just see that's a broom. So there's again something else we stratified over winter. And they're just starting to come through now. I can see quite a few of them actually just starting to come through. So hopefully what I might do is come out with scissors and give everything a bit of a haircut, knock that back, and the broom, being a nitrogen fixer, should overtake, because I want to use a lot of broom through the plantings right at the top of the field to really accelerate the shelter belt plantings. And this is just a holding action for trees that, yeah, I don't want to have to pot up just yet, so I've got a pot that I just shove them into. At the moment we've got a couple of holly and a chestnut and a lupin, because I'm loving the blue lupin. They're doing really well here. I'll start at this end, I think. This is cardoon. It's the relative of globe artichoke. It's, yeah, I'm really pleased with them so far. They're doing really well. We lost all but one of the artichoke. So these will be planted out soon. Then I'll plant into this same crate when these are moved on. I'll plant a load more artichoke. I got a whole load of artichoke seeds. All of them died except one, so we're going to obviously keep that one. That'll be planted out as something that's, you know, obviously hardier than the average. Just, you know, when you've got growing them out from seed, you know, you've always, you know, rolled the dice to a degree, and some varieties will be better suited than others. So if you keep the ones that live and let the ones that die, then what you're doing is you're breeding for varieties and selecting for varieties that you can propagate that are hardy for your area. So cardoon is just something we're going to use because it's a really nice plant, and if we really can't do artichoke for a few years, it'd be nice having some cardoon knocking about. So that's all they're in for, but really we're going to do some more artichoke as well. And this here that's a weed. This is asparagus. So nothing as yet, but again, it's a stratified seed. It hasn't done. Oh, actually, there's a little asparagus. There's loads of little asparagus. Where are we? There, a teeny tiny asparagus. And there's another one there, little tiny asparagus shoot. Ah, that's cool. So, yep, right, there's loads of them. So, yep, we're growing our own asparagus grounds. Excellent. I'd noticed that before. This is black locust. Now this is this year's trees. I've grown it a couple of times. Last year did really well, but well, I had one problem since then, which is why in amongst it all you'll see these little slug pellets. These are the wildlife friendly ones. You know, they're hedgehog safe and wildlife safe. You know, it's a different chemical entirely. And last time I said what it was, I got it wrong. So I'm not doing that on camera again. But you can see that they're doing really well. Really healthy little seedlings. Because I want a lot of black locust. And they're an amazing tree. So, yep, we've got a load of them. Then we're into more support species. These are lupin. Now these are getting close. The bigger ones that you're looking at, I'll just prize them out in little clumps, and we'll go and we'll dot them around the place. We've got some at the top of the field. They're growing really aggressively. They're incredibly wind fast. Look at that little droplet down in there. How cool is that? See, lots of reasons to like lupin. Beautiful plants. Nitrogen fixing. We've got that really nice blue flower spike. They're fantastic. And yeah, that's probably us for this year. I might do another batch next year, but I mean there's hundreds and hundreds of plants here. So by the time I've, you know, dotted around everywhere I want, that'll look amazing next year. And I might do one more batch next year. We'll see. I really like them. Then we've got oddities like this. This is it's a ginger. It's a yoga ginger. So it's hardy to our area, but you can see the slugs have been at it. I might have to give that a treat, I think. Now there should be another one in there and another one in here, but it was a pretty mild winter, so they should have pulled through, but we'll see. Disappointing if they don't. This tray here, they're just starting to come through now. That's a seed that wildlife must have moved, because that's a lupin. But just coming through here, that Siberian pea tree, Siberian pea shrub, and there's a few of them just coming through now. And that's a tree that grows into it's a reasonable sized small tree really, and it's got seed pods that produce things that are basically, you know, more like a lentil, but they're a really good chicken forage, poultry forage. So being a legume, of course, really good protein source. So the idea is that having these as, you know, full height trees, we can just chuck a tarp down, shake it, and get, you know, kilos and kilos of high protein animal fodder. So that'll keep our poultry over the winter, along with a few other things that we got in the works. But these really are a key species for us. So we've been planting them for about 3 years. Last year didn't do at all well. I think I was a bit slack with the watering. So hopefully this will be a better year for them. I need to do a little bit of weeding, look. It's the trouble with this cheap compost, it's loaded with weeds. And then, again, reused compost, so there's a lot of weed competition. It's the same Siberian pea, but there are a few starting to come through. But I can't see any of them now, but I saw them the other day, so they are there. But yeah, I'm going to have to keep on top of the weeds. But here we go, this is a little teeny tiny one from, I think it was 2 years back, but it's been neglected and abused, so it's quite small. See the weed pressure it's in. So that needs to be planted up again. And then these two trays here, yeah, these are my black locust, and I thought they'd done amazingly well. But if you look down at the bases of nearly all of these, you can see that slug damage, they've completely ring barked them. So even though it looks really well at the top, yeah, it's going to die. Now the thing with the black locust is it will regenerate from roots, it will sucker, so I'm hoping that some of these will come. Maybe they haven't all been completely ring-barked, but most of them seem to have done. But you know, you learn. So yeah, it's not ideal. So I'm going to do another batch this year, but obviously try and keep on top of the slug defences. Yeah, this again, really nice tree. It's 1 year old, you know, it did really well. So what, 18 inches high, and it's been completely ring-barked. But the odd one might grow back, we'll see. Then we've got things like Welsh Onion that really needs to be potted on. It's really just rammed in, you can't even see the pot. That's the trouble here this time of year. Once things start to grow, they really fly up. Now these two crates here, they're not mine, these are my son's crates, they're his experiment. And he invested some birthday money in some seeds and some compost, and he's growing trees out to sell later on. So that's pretty cool. And these are the black locust, and here there's Siberian pea shrub. And you can see there's just the odd one starting to come out. So that's cool. I don't even think he's seen that yet. So yeah, so that's his business, nothing to do with me. Then we have chive seed that hasn't come yet, but I'm optimistic. As I say, it hasn't been particularly warm yet. But so that's chives. Same thing with lavender seed. That still needs to sprout. Then I'm into, what did I put in here? That is creeping thyme. So I think that's what some of these might be. But obviously there is a bit of, in fact that looks like something else entirely. But anyway, yes, theoretically this is creeping thyme. So I think quite a few of them are. But obviously this again is older compost, so you got to expect a bit of weed pressure. But it's a really amazing colonizing plant. Really pleased with that. And this last one is, now it looks like some of them have come, but we'll see. Yeah, I was out foraging one day, went for a walk, and I came across what looked like a hogweed that was giant. And I don't mean giant hogweed, that, I don't want that anywhere near the croft. But it was a conventional hogweed, but was huge. I mean, this thing was easily 2 meters tall. But yeah, absolutely amazing. So I went back later in the year to harvest the seed, and someone had snapped that massive seed head. So it was barely hanging on, but the seed had matured. But I don't know how viable it was. So I planted it in here just to grow it out and see whether it, whether its offspring behave the same. Because that's a lot of biomass, and it looks like it might be, but we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of seeds in it. For example, that is a nettle, so yeah, there's all sorts of stuff in here, but we'll see if it comes. And then we just got a few other random experiments. These are old white mulberry, but they got hammered again by the slugs a couple of years ago. But they just, I don't know, it still feels like green living wood. So I can't bring myself to throw them away because they still seem alive, but they're not putting any sort of new growth on. So I'll have to get rid of them at some point, but it just seems a waste. And then we have a perennial kale. These are, again, some stuff going out into the shelter belt. That is New Zealand flax. And then last, I think, these are due to go out, which is why they're over here. That is a Staghorn Sumac, and we've got 7 of them, still living, still doing well. We got a load in the ground already, but I really like them as trees, and pretty tough. So yeah, that's a very quick walkthrough of the nursery for this year. It's going to be expanded in this direction, and still need to finish the cob oven at some point, but it's working, so we keep having pieces even though it isn't finished. So yeah, I'm going to expand it all out this way, but I need to source some more plastic to go down because I don't like to use brand new material. It's really expensive apart from anything else. But yeah, so to grow, I mean, there must be, I don't know how many thousands of trees here. There's hundreds and hundreds of hazel alone, and it's cost very little really to grow. If you're trying to do bulk plantings by the 100 and 1,000 of plants, it's really, really expensive. But if you plan ahead a little bit and you get seed and do the stratification and so on, you can really do bulk plantings like this, and you can leave them for a year or two as they get established, giving them plenty of fertilizer. And it doesn't have to be like synthetic fertilizers, because we don't really use them. I've used a little bit of the slow release fertilizer this year because you know, trying to get anything other than water through this canopy is very difficult. You know, I can't put anything on the surface like compost. So I put a little bit of that in just before they leafed in, just to give them a bit of a surge, to get them a bit higher before going out. But generally we don't bother with that at all. And yeah, we've got, I don't know how many thousands of trees. So we're actually reaching the point that there's there's maybe 3-4 species that we need to, you know, do bulk plantings for. But yeah, we're pretty much finished.